Oh man, Mom's gonna be so mad. How could I have broken my glasses? Wait, I can fix this. Oculus Reparo. Oculus Reparo. Oculus Reparo! Nothing. Oh. What's up, my guys and geeks? In Harry Potter and the Order of the Phoenix, we are introduced to the Thestrals, big skeletal bird-horse hybrids that Harry often uses to get around when other forms of transportation are either unavailable or might be being monitored. And we also find out that these Thestrals can only be seen by those who have witnessed a death. And that's why we assume Harry can see the Thestrals only in the 5th book, because he just in the previous book witnessed Cedric Diggory's death. But Harry's seen an awful lot of death in his life, so wouldn't he have been able to see the Thestrals a little bit earlier? As early as his first year at Hogwarts? Well, that's what we're looking to find out in today's episode of Geek Space. What's up, guys? Welcome back to Geek Space, the channel for all your geeky needs. Make sure you subscribe with the notifications bell so that you don't miss out on any of the fun stuff we do on this channel. And also be sure to comment down below what you think of this video and what other Harry Potter videos or questions you might want me to answer in the future. But anyway, in the Order of the Phoenix, the 5th book in the series and therefore Harry's 5th year at Hogwarts, we're introduced to the Thestrals.
What are they?
They're called Thestrals.
And we're told quite clearly that one can only see Thestrals after witnessing death. So it makes sense. Harry saw Cedric Diggory die. He's now able to see the Thestrals. But this death of Cedric Diggory isn't the first time that Harry witnesses death. Of course, the most obvious example is when he was 1 year old and Lord Voldemort stormed into his house and killed his mother and father. Particularly, his mother was killed by the Avada Kedavra curse right in front of Harry's eyes. And now, I understand, some people will argue he was a baby, he can't really clearly remember that night, and therefore it wouldn't count towards his ability to see the Thestrals. And I absolutely agree, that's a completely plausible explanation. It certainly is possible that Harry didn't remember witnessing his parents' death. He couldn't remember what happened in his mind, and therefore he wasn't able to see the Thestrals. But there's another death that Harry quite directly witnesses, and in fact causes, that nobody else seems to have considered, that would have let Harry be able to see the Thestrals as early as his first year at Hogwarts. And that is Professor Quirrell.
Poor stuttering Professor Quirrell.
That's right. The weirdo with the turban on his head who secretly had Voldemort poking out of the back of his skull. Harry encountered him in the first book as they both quested to find the Sorcerer's Stone, or Philosopher's Stone, depending on what part of the world you're in. But when Quirrell tried to attack Harry, Harry's love protection ended up destroying Quirrell. And Quirrell died, disintegrated really, right before Harry's eyes. And aside from the fact that an 11-year-old was just responsible for the death of a fully grown man, which very few people seem to acknowledge or be willing to consider as a rather disturbing fact, the fact is that Harry quite clearly witnessed death. He witnessed it all the way back in the very first book. So why in the world then was it not until the fifth book that Harry was able to see the Thestrals? And I have a theory regarding this. And my theory is that Thestrals only appear when you've seen the death of someone who is close to you. Now, we know two other characters particularly that are able to see the Thestrals, and that's Luna Lovegood and Hagrid. And both of them are able to see the Thestrals due to the death of someone who was quite close to them. For Luna, her mother.
My mom.
And for Hagrid, his father. So, if you're only able to see the Thestrals after you witness the death of someone who's close to you, and if, because Harry can't fully picture his parents' death, he therefore is blocked from seeing the Thestrals by some complicated magic, then the death of Quirrell really wouldn't count. So if he couldn't remember his parents' death, then Cedric's death would be the first death of someone who was significant to him that would have allowed him to see the Thestrals. But I have another theory. I have a theory that's a little bit more complicated. What if there's the reason that Harry can't see the Thestrals at first doesn't have to do with the matter of his not remembering or not being able to clearly picture his parents' death? What if it simply has to do with the fact that he wasn't ready to accept what death meant up until that point?
This is confusing!
In the Order of the Phoenix, Harry hasn't really come to terms with what death is. I mean, he certainly in the earlier books understands that his parents died. He understands that Voldemort kills them. And he certainly does witness Quirrell's death. But Cedric's death is the first time that Harry really takes time to think about death. That he takes time to accept the reality of death. Harry never truly so clearly processes what death means, what death is, until the fourth book. Certainly he rushes into danger and is willing to put his life on the line, but we never specifically see him taking the act of being readily prepared to die. Every time he comes close to death, something protects him and his friends. In the first book, his love protection defeats Quirrell. In the second book, Fawkes saves Harry, and Harry's able to save Ginny. In the third book, Harry's able to save Buckbeak and Sirius. But in the fourth book, Harry is finally unable to save everyone around him. He's forced to accept that death is an inevitability, that even with his magical prowess and abilities, there's nothing he could do to have prevented it.
Who are you? What do you want? Kill the spare!
Avada Kedavra!
No! Cedric!
Harry never really had to come to terms with that in terms of his parents' death because it happened before he could remember it. He'd already accepted that his parents were gone, but he hadn't really been forced to consider what that truly meant in terms of what death is, or the fact that he couldn't protect everyone. So perhaps it's not a matter, the Thestrals' magic isn't a matter of witnessing death, but the matter of accepting that there's nothing you can do to stop death. Luna certainly came to terms with her mother's death, and she said that she'd see her again, and that she had her dad with her. So she'd come to terms and accepted that she couldn't always prevent death. Similarly, Hagrid had come to terms with his father's death and accepted that it had happened and that he had to move on. So, finally, once Harry is forced to accept Cedric's death and that he wasn't able to save Cedric, he's able to see the Thestrals. So let me know your thoughts in the comments down below. Do you think that it's something about accepting death and accepting that you can't protect and save everybody that allows people to see the Thestrals? Do you think that Quirrell's death didn't count because he wasn't someone Harry was emotionally close to? Do you think that Harry's parents' deaths didn't count because Harry couldn't really remember them? Or do you think that this was just a writing error and J.K. Rowling hadn't yet considered the Thestrals when she wrote the first book? Be sure to let me know what you thought in the comments down below, and make sure you subscribe with the bell on so that you can stay up to date with all the fun stuff we're doing here at Geek Space. And I'll sign off, and I've handpicked 2 videos for you right down here, but the catch is you gotta pick them in 5 seconds because this video is about to end. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, adios.